Hey YouTube, what's up? This is Scarecrow here. I am going to do my deck profile today on my delayed because I've been very busy. I'll be explaining that. It's been about a month. In that month, I've had a lot to deal with. Mother being in the hospital multiple times, my wife being in the hospital. Currently this week, my grandfather is dying. Lots of things other than the fact that I work 50 hours a week and have a 7-month-old daughter and things. But this deck profile would have been delayed in terms of when I wanted to get it, regardless, because this is my honorary professor build. Now it's been like almost a month, like maybe 3 weeks since Trinity Dragon came out or whatever. I thought I was gonna have this deck for you guys like really quick. Even if I hadn't been busy, I would still only around just now be able to get it to you. It probably could have been maybe a week sooner, but this deck was a challenge, and that honestly surprised me. I thought this deck was gonna be much more straightforward to build. That I usually don't struggle that hard with getting a deck to function the way I want it to. This deck was a challenge, and I actually was like about to give up on the deck. I just didn't think I could get it to be like satisfactory at all, but I eventually got there, and that's what I'm going to show you here today. So my starter I'm using is Gifted Bear. I undervalued this card a lot at first. I didn't consider him at all, but he's actually really, really great, especially in this build. He lets you show grade 3, go get an honorary professor, and discard card. He's similar to how a stride fodder works when you call it, but he's not GB, so you can use him early game and stuff. Where if you get the grade, not the grade 3 you want to be your first ride, you can help you go get it. But this card is good for getting your grade 3s in hand the way you need them to be for stride costs, riding the right grade 3, building up for the effect of Savage. He's working really great. I like him. And he doesn't have a counter blast. That's cool too. He just have to rest him and then he'll die at the end of the turn. For my triggers, 4 Chameleons, 4 Pond Belly, and 4 vanilla crits for a total of 12. I find that crits work better in this deck. At times I've really considered stands, but there's a lot of issues with them other than the fact that stand triggers as a trigger are inconsistent. And the extra cards that the stands could help me draw are pretty unnecessary. I draw plenty enough as it is, and drawing more could kill me. That was one of the big problems with this deck, was decking out. And last we have our 4 heals. For our grade 1s, we got for Mike Sabaru, I think is how you say his name. This card is like a staple in this clan now. It's just too good. We have our 4 perfect guards that unflip. This deck is very counterblast heavy. What is that noise? Sorry, I don't know what that weird squealing is. It's coming from the hallway of my apartment. I don't know what it is. But yes, very good card. We need to unflip this deck. Counterblasts a lot. Then I have 3 Coiling Duckbill. Great card. He's like a great nature classic. I've had to cut him down to 1 to make room for other things. This deck did not turn out at all how I thought it was going to be. Like, if me now went back in time and told me before I started building the deck and testing it, some of these things, I would have thought I was crazy. But that said, my last grade 1 is 3 Wash Up Raccoon. This is one of the saving graces that helped me get the deck to work on any level at all. Before I had this card in, the deck was like, just didn't make sense. It didn't make sense why it wasn't good. This card helps a lot. He can go grab a copy of himself by putting back 3 cards. It doesn't even really matter that this card, even if you can't replace it, late game, this card is going to be everything. The fact that he puts back 3 cards, you don't even care if you're getting hit another raccoon, just putting back those 3 cards, that is an amazingly helpful thing. This card has done wonders to help this deck with its deck out problems. Onto the grade 1 or grade 2s. First, I've got 4 Treaty Panther. This card's cool. He gives when he attacks the other card in the same row as him, gets +4, and then at the end of the turn they die and they draw. He's a cool way to pump without counterblasting or anything and still get a draw out of it. If he worked a little bit faster, it'd be cooler, but this deck is very counterblast heavy, and he works kind of like a Binoculus, but he gives you a draw on top of it too, and yeah, that's why I'm running him at that number. I thought I was going to play like the Pig and the Frog. Those cards seemed amazing. They did not work out at all, so he's the only like honorary professor, like real support I'm running. Next grade 2 is for Crane Tiger. This card is an obvious staple for all great nature decks. I shouldn't really need to explain why. That seems pretty obvious. Speaking of Binoculus, like I was a moment ago, I'm only running 1. This is something I thought I was going to be playing 4 of, and it didn't work out. It took me a long time to give up on this deck being built to have good early game. I thought like good early game was going to be a huge crucial point to it, and I had to sacrifice that a little bit in order to make the deck run better. And it seems really weird, I guess, to be playing just 1 of this card, but it's working for me right now. And my last grade 2 is 2 Anchor Rabbit. I didn't think this guy could fit in here. I thought this deck was going to be too counterblast heavy, and I just kind of threw him in once I got the deck working a little bit better, and he's really good in this deck. I like him a lot. The turn that you stride into your honorary professor stride, Rouse something, I can't remember its name, and Mortaling Professor. This card is really good that turn. I'm only playing 2, so I don't see him all the time, but I see him off him enough that I really like him. Into the 3s. Whereas before in this deck, up until now, I liked playing 6 grade 3s in my Great Nature builds, but in this build, I feel like you need some more, just because the way effects stack up and stuff and the costs. But I'm playing 4 Chat Noir, our Break Ride. Very important card in the deck. You really need to ride this as your grade 3. Followed by 3 of our new guy, Chat Sauvage. You have to ride Chat Noir so that you can do this play later where you ride him, then discard a grade 3, and it enables you to stride and then apply the Break Ride effect to that stride. Really good. Which brings us into our G zone now. I'll real quick get out the G guards. Playing 1 of this guy. Basically, this guy is not that good in this deck, but he has his role where he's used in the deck kind of like a Dismal. That's really why he's in here. Not sure I'm going to necessarily keep him, but that's why he's in here right now, just for a little bit of utility. Next, I got 2 of the Peacock, guards for 20 and unflips. The unflipping ability of this guy is actually a really helpful part of this deck, especially if you can drop 2 of them in the same turn, targeting the same card so that 1 card dies and you get 2 counterblasts out of it. Very helpful. And then my last G guard is 2 of the Armadillo, our big 25 shield for really nothing. This card is almost always a 25 shield. Into our G zone, we got 1 Calf Plug. This card is like almost always our first stride. This card is like I don't need to explain this card anymore. This card is like a staple because almost every deck that plays Chat Noir plays this card. The rest of the one of this new guy, he's a little bit difficult to use sometimes. You have to hit success 25, but when you do, you can put 4 cards back. He can be helpful late game to help keep yourself from decking out and rebuild your deck with triggers a little bit. It can be kind of hard to get to that success 25 though, so that's why there's only one, but he's there if it comes up. Another one of Fernigus, or I think that's how you say this guy's name or whatever, that's what I'm going to call him. This card is really cool, but you have to use this card very, very carefully. This card will deck you out before you can blink. You have to be very careful with this card. I suggest, like, you probably shouldn't even try to use it every game. You should use it very carefully, and you should like never use this card when you have a full field. You will deck out if you try doing that shit. You gotta use this guy very carefully, usually only with like 2-3 rear guards out. Be very careful with this card. That's all I gotta say. But it's still worth running a one of. Then we got one Hermthers, I think that's how you say his name. Really like this guy. He's a good card for just a Soul Blast, which is almost costless in this deck. Give somebody +8. If they're now over 20, you can draw. Very helpful card. We got one Afonk, I think that's how you say his name. This card is not that good of a card, but it's helpful against decks like Kagro, so that's why we have one of it. And then we got our 2 Big Bellies. Considered playing 4, but instead I've opted to play 4 of our Immortal Professor, the guy who combos off of our Break Ride Stride combo. You won't usually, like almost never, get to use them twice in a game, so that's why I've considered maybe taking out 2 of these and putting in 2 more Big Bellies. Then again, you're also not as likely to use Big Belly twice in a game in this deck. I feel like you might actually be slightly more likely to do this. I don't know. That might change, but for now, we're doing this. He's a cool card. If you can G-Guard first and get to use this guy as your first stride, that's when he's like shines best. But one of the problems with this card is setting up for him, because you can't usually use him till your second stride, and keeping yourself alive to that point and having the hand so that you can set up, like, you usually need like a full field to really utilize this guy, and keeping the cards in hand to do that can be difficult. But if you can do it, he's extremely rewarding if you can get everything go off the way you want it to. So that is it for this deck profile. Thank you guys for watching. I'm very late getting to this, but as I said, other than just the fact that I've had a lot of shit going on in my life, this deck was a difficult one to figure out and get it to work the way I want it to. I'm pretty satisfied with how it is working now. That Washed Up Raccoon, that card, is very helpful. Thank you guys for watching.